All right, happy end of July. It is Tuesday, July 29th. So we'll be officially 3 months through the year here. And man, I hope everything's going well for you. The one thing for us to remember is that we got to talk to people. So whatever that takes, we need to get in front of human beings who can say yes. So today, obvious topic, and I know all of you heard about it beforehand, which is, did you ever wonder why? So there's a number of subjects that we're going to hit here today, as long as this will work for me. Come on. There we go. Here's the keys that we're going to cover today. Why do we ask for proof of deposit of earnest money? Why are we not wanting you to get the EMD that much later? Why are we wanting you to get it really more upfront instead of at the time of inspection? Why are we asking for large earnest money deposits? The proof of funds, the pre-title. Here's one that kind of just irritates us as salespeople. Guilty. Why the broker requirement? And here's another one, home warranty. What a pain, getting that waiver done. And of course, why are we having a timely turn in of all the documents regarding the home warranty? So here's our first one. Did you ever wonder why we ask for the proof of the earnest money deposit? And I want you to catch, matter of fact, take and maybe even write this down. Why the proof of deposit? You see, let me throw a twist to you that we haven't really thought about. If somebody sends me a check, is that proof that the earnest money deposit has been received and deposited? It isn't. And I can tell you, and I know Martha, because I can see your face here. As managers, we've seen it where lots of deposits have been shown through a check, but it was never deposited. And if it was never deposited, here's what happens. And we've had it with our agents. Our agents will get a copy of the check from the buyer. And then they forward a copy of the check that they got from the buyer to us, which gives us our proof of it, EMD. No, we just got a copy of a check. And in this case, it came from the buyer and we never had the check. Now, I want you to think about how does that impact us? Get my screen set here so I can see everything myself. What would happen if, here's the scenario, it were not actually received or deposited? So as an example, a deal falls apart outside of what the purchase agreement allows, only to find out that the earnest money deposit was never actually collected or deposited. And I will share with you, there's a reason that I brought this up and how this subject matter came to me about, did you ever wonder why? I chair the professional standards and ethics and arbitration for NACBOR. I can't go into all of the details, so let me keep it simple. Here's what has happened. Listing agent never got proof, never even got a copy of the earnest money deposit. Listing agent never got proof of the earnest money deposit. Deal goes south for anything outside of what the earnest or what the purchase agreement allows, and buyer's agent sends over a mutual release, releasing the earnest money to the seller because the buyer was in default. Why is the buyer doing it? They didn't give any earnest money. What do they lose? Sure, go ahead. Now, seller, unknowing that there's no earnest money deposit, signs mutual release. And then there's a long discussion about trying to collect it, because now it's finally figured out that, well, wait a minute, the buyer's broker never collected it. Not the buyer's agent, by the way, buyer broker. Oh, and yeah, Jamie, you're jumping on a little bit early, but yeah, let's hit it. Jamie put it into the chat. Buyer's agent was responsible for $10,000 EMD at this. We won't mention any names. And it was not the one that I'm talking about. But we'll talk more about it. Because see, if it's $1,500 or it's $10,000, does it cause a whole lot of problems? Yes, it does. Creates major issues for you. So here's what I want you to know. 2 times I've sit on this. Buyer never gave a deposit. And I can even throw this to you. What was scary? The buyer's agent, the buyer's broker, and a listing agent, a listing broker had no idea of what the purchase agreement stated or how to interpret it. And yet it was simple in regards to, basically it said, buyer is depositing with broker blank dollars. So somebody interpret that. When does that mean I have it? When do I get it? Go ahead and mouth that again, Martha. One word. Now, I have it. That's what that says. Now, our purchase agreement is written differently, and I hope that you know what it actually says. But again, what I've given you is a real world scenario as to what happens. But take that and be on the listing agent side. And how about this? I don't think I put this in. Are you covering your seller if you never get verification of the deposit of the earnest money deposit? We aren't. So we have to take a look at it from that direction. So what is the requirement for receiving and turning in a deposit? Now go ahead and answer that in your own mind, because I don't want to embarrass anybody. But I want you to think about that. And do you know, or do you know that you know, or better yet, do you know that you know that you know? Here's the answer. This is straight out of the code, Michigan code. A real estate broker, notice I underlined that. A real estate broker shall deposit not later than 2 banking days, not 48 hours, banking days, after, and I want you to catch this, the broker has received notice that an offer to purchase is accepted by all parties. So not from receipt, but here's the other part, and I didn't put it in. You all know that when you get an earnest money deposit, it is deposit. You are to turn it into the office upon receipt. And that's not just our office policy, but that's office policy because that's what the code says. Michigan code governing the aspect of earnest money deposits says when we as salespeople receive an earnest money deposit, we must turn it into the broker immediately. Okay? Now, some of you, I believe, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but Darwin, we don't do that. Well, we don't totally do that, but why can we get away with doing what we do? Well, it's because of the way our purchase agreement is written. Now, this was a bit of an issue with the hearings that I have done. People didn't understand their own purchase agreement. But if you read it, it keeps it simple. So it says that the buyer is depositing with, most of the time that's us. It could be another title company or it could be a builder. But it's the buyer is depositing with whoever that is a dollar amount in the form of a check, money order, cashier, certified funds, wired directly to escrow-e. The EMD will be collected and deposited within blank calendar days. Now, if we've received it and there's acceptance and we got notice of acceptance, then as a broker, we've got 2 banking days to get it deposited. But if, let's say, and this is common for me, I will put 5 days, 5 calendar days. How long do I have to collect it? 5 days in the scenario I created. How long, once I, well, here, let me rephrase it. If I receive it on the 3rd day after acceptance, I've received it. When do I have to get it into the office? You can go ahead and lip that immediately. Okay? But Darwin, what if it's on the weekend? Is Saturday and Sunday banking days? Do we have someone in the office? Get it to the broker immediately. I would rather have it if I'm in an office where my admin has a closed office, or my manager has a closed office, because not all of them do, I would slip it under a door. But on the other hand, I'm hanging on to it. First thing Monday morning, it's coming in and is being handed to my admin. All right. That's what covers us. And then the office still has the 2 banking days to get it deposited. But what we know, it's brought in, we deposit it. Okay. I'm looking to see if anybody has any questions from any of that, but that's really, really clear. Oh gosh, let me shift while you're thinking about whether or not you have any questions. What does everybody else's purchase agreement say about the earnest money deposit? That's a pretty good answer, because we don't know until we read it. But by golly, we better know what it says. And then we better verify that they do what it says. All agreements are different. You need to read your purchase agreements, as we covered last week in risk reduction. Read every paragraph. So why do we not want to wait for removal of inspection? Because the reason that we would put it down that we'll collect the EMD after removal of inspection is because we're protecting the buyer, quote unquote. We're protecting the buyer. Well, I guess let's just create the scenario. What would happen if it were not actually received or deposited? So here's the scenario. You make the deposit to be collected after the removal of the home inspection, which, even though you made it, say, 7 days, by the time you got everything negotiated to where there's agreement and we're moving forward, it took 13 days for you to be able to remove that inspection contingency. Guess what you forgot to do? You forgot to collect the earnest money deposit. And you're going, yeah, no, that doesn't happen. Oh, listen, not me, but I could count on me doing it. But it happened to one of my agents. Now, what would we typically do? And if you've had this happen, thank God it closed, because all that we do is sign an addendum that says the earnest money deposit is 0. Right? Issue taken care of. Now, shame on us, because we forgot to collect it, and therefore the buyer was actually in breach of the purchase agreement. But what happens when the buyer gets toward the date, we set the date of closing, and then the buyer says, hey, I don't want to close. I'm not going to buy it. And you don't have an earnest money deposit. Buyer's in breach of contract already. Now they're in breach of contract because they simply do not close for a reason that the purchase agreement does not allow. They're in breach of contract. Is the earnest money deposit going to be forfeited? as a minimum. We'll talk more about that. But there is no earnest money deposit. How do you take care of that? I'll be visual. I think it'll show up with the way this is right now. This is my wallet, and it's not coming out of mine because I won't screw up. But whose wallet is it going to come out of, guys? Coming out of your pocket. You see, as a brokerage, we didn't make that mistake. You did. Brokerage responsible? Absolutely. But who's going to pay it in the end? You are. So don't let that happen. I would totally discourage you to stay away from doing earnest money deposits being collected at the upon removal of an inspection contingency. Stay away from it, and that's the reason we don't want to have that happen to us. All right. So I hit the now what and what if the buyer walks. Why do we ask for a large earnest money deposit? Can we simplify it? So if a buyer just decided to walk away, fully executed purchase agreement, and they got $1,000 earnest money deposit, what's their risk? What could they do? Now, I'm giving you that time to think for a second, and you know your answer that you've given. Most of the time, here's what we'll say. Well, the buyer would simply forfeit their earnest money deposit, right? I'm looking to see if anybody will nod their head and commit. Well, here's what it says. Paragraph 24 of our purchase agreement. In the event the buyer fails to fulfill obligations set forth herein or fails to close this transaction in time and manner provided, sellers may elect to enforce the terms hereof. Really difficult, but it's possible. That's called specific performance. You can write that one down. You should hold on to that one. That's an important term, specific performance. They can declare the sale void and retain the earnest money deposit as per paragraph 9 as liquidated damages. But look what I have bold and underlined it. And or seek all available remedies. Otherwise, they could sue for damages. Common misunderstanding. Well, all they lose is their earnest money deposit. Not until they've signed a mutual release. Because up until that point, anything can happen. I hope that one's landed quite well. So here's the thing. I want a large earnest money deposit regardless of who I'm representing. For the buyer, help me get your offer accepted. Earnest money deposit is showing the good faith the buyer is displaying to say, accept my offer, I'm willing to lose this. On the other hand, as a seller, I want a large earnest money deposit, because the larger that earnest money deposit, the more that buyer has on a line and is not going to be willing to walk away for just any reason. But $1,000 today is nothing. I think we need to look at that $1,000 as a minimum on any deal. But if it's a small one and they're going to need 3% to close, well, let's collect 3%. But I think if it's a larger one, you ought to have a minimum of 1%. Got a $500,000 house, that's a $5,000 earnest money deposit minimum. Make it hurt if they're willing to walk away. Make it hurt. Okay. So why do we ask for a proof of funds? I think by now you probably figured it out That's pretty much the same as we were talking about with an earnest money deposit. So I want you to think about this. What would happen if the buyer didn't have the liquid funds to close the transaction? And you never got a proof of funds. What if they don't have the money? They made a cash offer, but they don't have the money. They shouldn't have been making a cash offer. You got a whole new problem and you go, yeah, but they just forfeit the earnest money deposit. Well, that's if it was collected and you verified it, that it was deposited. But let's take it a step further, because this is an important one to know. Often a proof of funds will come in and it's through a 401k. If anybody's ever dealt with their 401k, most 401ks will not allow you to withdraw more than 50% with no penalty. And oh, by the way, you can only do one withdrawal every year. So if they do a withdrawal and all of a sudden they need more, ruh-roh, we have a problem, Houston. So 401 is an issue. If I get a verification of the funds, proof of funds, I want to know that they can actually withdraw that amount of money. How about this one? The offer was made as a cash offer, contingent upon the closing of the buyer's home. I ask you, is that a cash offer? Thank you, Tanisha. Gosh, who worked with you all this time? It's not a cash offer. It's cash if they close their home. But because they made it cash, the question is, doesn't that basically make the earnest money deposit non-refundable if they don't close? For any other reason, like they've removed the contingency of inspection, there's no contingency of financing. So to be able to make an offer, and by the way, as you're getting right now, it's open for interpretation, isn't it? So if it's contingent upon, it's not a cash offer, is the way I'm going to tell you to look at it. It sounds great, but now you're contingent upon another buyer getting their financing so that your buyer has the cash so that they can actually close. It's nice, but it's not cash. It's not cash. All right. Did you ever wonder why we always want you to actually ask, provide, get pre-title? And pre-title is no more than we take a listing, we order the title commitment right away. We want to see what's on there that's going to, what we're going to have to do to provide clear title. Let me create a scenario for you. If you haven't, you will, but you will find that there's going to be unknown clouds on title. Let me give you, this was a real one for me. House in Pontiac. My seller is 92 years old, 92. Bought the property from his father. He was the second owner of this house. It was interesting to get the abstract of title all the way back where it said, you know, we always question how bad was discrimination. Well, it used to say, right, this one had on it still that you couldn't sell the property to blacks. Blacks couldn't own it. Okay, now we know that is no longer an issue. Laws have been taken care of to fix that, but this was it. And I told the gentleman, I said, one of two things has happened. We're going to be coming through and it's going to be just shining clear, or we're going to have stuff that's going to be really nasty we're going to have to take care of. Well, as you can see in my little scenario here, at one point he needed to borrow a little bit of money. So he went to a friend and she lent him like $15,000 on the property. Well, instead of doing something separate, his way of being able to give her collateral was to give her, silliness, a warranty deed on one of the two lots that the house sat on. who, now that we're trying to get this sold, she had passed away 30 years earlier. We got no idea who or anything about her estate. Does she have survivors or anything else? We were able to get enough evidence, proof that he had paid it. And the only way that we had any evidence or proof that he paid what he owed her was through a letter that she gave him, thanks for paying it off. So what do you do in this scenario? Well, we had ordered pre-title. We ordered it right up front as soon as we started and knew we had the listing. But we also sold it in a matter of days. Well, if you know you're going to have one, and I just had one of these, good friends, we knew we were going to have it. Same scenario, 90, I think 92 and 94. And they are the only owners of this property that was built in the 50s. While they were preparing to be able to put the home on the market, we ordered pre-title. And then we find out that it was really interesting, but they did it as not as no. Oh, come on, Martha, help me out. What's the obvious one? Certificate of trust. There, I had to think of the right thing. They put it into a trust. If anybody's seen a trust lately, normally they're in a 3 or 4 inch binder. This was 1 page. The whole trust back in 1991 was 1 page. Now, it was easy enough to be able to get it taken care of, but it didn't become a problem for closing because we ordered it weeks in advance of actually having the listing. We knew what we were dealing with. In this case, by the way, that I have on screen, you've got to clear it up. And the bottom line on this one is what they call a process of quiet title. Quiet title, you got 3 to 4 months. It's going to cost you somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000 because you got to take it to the court. Your attorney files, says, hey, judge, here's everything that's happened. Here's our proof that this is actually our property, that this was taken care of, that we should still own that 1 parcel. But like a foreclosure, they had to go through and do an advertisement, tell everybody in the world that this property is and what is happening, but it was to quiet the title so that the judge could then go, yep, it's his, giving us the authority to then sell the property. How about this one? That doggone broker requirement form. What a pain in the backside. And what a waste of time. I don't understand. Why do we even have to do it? Well, the simplest way to be able to put it, guys, is this is the instructions to all parties involved in a transaction. Hey, title company, here's everything that you need to know. Hey, mortgage company, here's everything that you need to know. It's for the manager, for the admin. All parties to the transaction now have the necessary information that they need to make sure that we're closing this property in accordance to the terms of the purchase agreement. Let me give you one. How does a title company know how much you're charging as compensation as the listing broker? Matter of fact, if it weren't on the purchase agreement now, they wouldn't know what it would be for your buyer brokerage compensation. Matter of fact, how do they know about the $395? It's on the purchase agreement when we represent the buyer, but how does anybody know about that on the seller side? Gosh, how do I know that you owe a referral fee to another broker? Guys, fill it out. And if you really got to know why something is on there, ask. I will guarantee you there is an answer for 95% of what's on there. And the simplest way for me to be able to tell you why is it on there, and this is from a guy that's had lots of input and somebody has said why a lot, in the end, it comes down to this. Somebody somewhere involved in a transaction needs that information. And you know what? I want to throw this out. And so Jeff, you're right on. Guys, turn in a complete package. But above all else, if you turn in paperwork, turn it in with the broker requirement and then get anything else. But do whatever your managing broker, your branch manager, your admin is asking you to do. And I'll keep that in there. Timing for submitting it, Don? Well, if you got an accepted deal, get it turned in. We need to know, somebody used the term here in Lake Orion today. You step off the curb and you get hit by a bus. We need to know what you've been doing. We need to be able to pick up wherever you may be leaving off, okay? So I'm going to put it as soon as possible, and every branch manager and every admin is a wee bit different. I was one who I wanted to see a complete package, but that meant get it in ASAP. Well, there it is. There's Martha in Morris, Owasso. Turn it in with your new pending or listing. Get it in there ASAP. It's just the paperwork is extremely important. And if I go back, by the way, to the earnest money deposit, I should have brought this up. No, I can cover it here. Did I hit all of that one? Yes. I'll come up on it. I'll come up on it. But just know somebody needs the information on there. We call it a broker requirements. It really, I think the best way to be able to see this, broker instructions. Hey, everybody, here's the way you need to see, and this is what you need to know. Home warranties. Did you know that if you were sued and your E&O insurance is necessary, that there is a $10,000 deductible before the E&O kicks in on anything? And the way that that works is that it's $5,000 paid by a company, $5,000 paid by you. Now, I will knock on anything I can. I've never had to kick in, never had to use E&O. Glad that I've got it, but more happy that I've never had to actually use it. But one of my agents a number of years back was sued wrongfully. And it took $5,000 of her money, $5,000 of company money, to get to the point where it was now in front of a judge. When the gal finally basically admitted that she had nothing to go on and that it was frivolous in the end, and it was thrown out. But it cost the company $5,000, it cost the agent $5,000 just to get to the point where it could be thrown out. Innocent, couldn't do anything about it, cost $5,000 each. Well, here's the key with the home warranty. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's great to cover your backside for a lot of different reasons. But in the case of the E&O insurance, if you were to use America's Preferred Home Warranty, their alliance with us will pay $3,750 on your behalf. Okay? So that's the America's Preferred Home Warranty. If you're an AHS fan, American Home Shield, they don't offer that. But here's what I would tell you. Get the waiver signed. It's good for you regardless. Now, best if you use the APHW if you want to have the 3750 coverage. But get that home warranty waiver signed. It's going to cover your backside. And everybody has been learning about the Latin proverb that I learned so many years ago, right? Don's remembering it. Anus protectus. Get it signed. All right, let's see. Why do we have, and this is what I had to hold myself off of, why are we having you do timely turn in of all the documents? Okay, So it's getting back to addressing that. When do we turn it in? Well, I want you to think of it this way. What if you were to miss something? Or you had an error on the paperwork? Or God forbid you were one of those agents that forgot to collect the earnest money deposit? We don't want to have to pay the EMD, and I know you don't want to have to pay the EMD. What we're all about is risk reduction, preventing anything from happening. Well, it's the only way that we can help you protect yourself, protect us as the brokerage, protect the other party, protect the other broker, protect everybody involved in a transaction, is if we have the paperwork and we can review it. So turn it in as soon as possible. I want to throw out, by the way, reviewing closing files. It's the same thing. Now, I hope that, one, you are reviewing your closing files. And I use the term, this is what you'll hear me say all the time. Are we closing the transaction in accordance to the terms of the purchase agreement? When we check a file, that's what we're looking to do. And I mentioned it last week, but I want to mention again, my friend Jason Sakis, who's a broker and lawyer, said something about it in one of the last educational meetings, that, and he may do this for us, I may have him in for it. He says, you know, it takes me an hour to check a package. An hour, 1 hour to check a closing package. I got to tell you, I was a little bit shocked and thought I didn't hear him correctly, because I would review a package in about 15 minutes. But there's a number of things that we need to do to make sure that we're closing the transaction in accordance to the terms of the purchase agreement. You're the first line of defense, but let your branch manager be the second line of defense. Get all of the closing paperwork into your branch manager's hands. But here's a scenario. You've got an earnest money deposit that you said is to be collected within 5 days of acceptance. Took you 10 days to get us the paperwork. Shame on you. And then we take a look and there's no earnest money deposit. At least we're going to make sure that we get it collected, but the buyer is already breach of contract. And I will tell you that you have violated the code of ethics. You'll probably be found guilty under 1 and 2. You can go look up what those are, but you just don't ever want to be found in that situation. But our job is to help take care of you and make sure that you got your backside covered. Okay? Get the paperwork turned in. Fill in all the blanks. If you were not on last week's session on risk reduction, I would ask you to go back and review that session that is in the HRC Agent Development channel. I see, Martha, you took yourself off mute for a reason?
I did. My client refused to sign the home warranty form. Is that acceptable? And what do we do?
Well, I hate to say it, but one, tell the truth. And if they refuse to sign saying that I'm waiving it, then ask them to initial it. Okay? Do something that says that we actually provided this. We said, here is an option for you. But to an extent, I mean, I'm going to go into objection handling. I'm going to say, well, I don't really need it, but why couldn't you just, sign it saying that you're waiving? I would like to know, because what are you hiding? What is the concern? Ask the question, take it a little bit further, but as a minimum, let's go from signature to initials so that we got something that says we presented this. Okay, it really is. That's a great question. Yeah, so there, oh, I see, Martha, you were just that step ahead of me. And I'm going to, okay, we're good there. So guys, that's going to wrap it up, but where do we go from here? What I want you to do is just simply embrace the direction that you're receiving from myself, from your managing broker, from your admin. Really, it's leading the future. And I can tell you, matter of fact, one of the first things that somebody had said is, well, that's why you don't ever have anything coming through the grievance committee. It's rare that we find our agents involved in it. And I'll tell you, there's many, many other companies that are repeat offenders. And it's because of the type of training that is not happening. And that's not to demean, it's just to say, guys, I thank you for taking part. Be the leaders. We're not going to follow what everybody else is doing. We will be doing the right things. And because we do business the way that we do it, we are going to impact others. So we are leading the way. And I'll share with you, we've done that in many, many different ways. But we've been ahead of everyone. And I saw this through Albert Einstein. So I'm just throwing this one in here, but it was kind of neat. Strive to be a success. Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. Because when it comes to doing what we do as salespeople, and we are salespeople, it's by providing value. And what we've been talking about really in the last 2 weeks, it's taking care of them. It's earning our money in ways that people don't even know that that's what we're doing for them. And with that, I'll throw it out for a little bit of question and answer. Anything else anybody's got any questions on?
Hi,
Go
Darwin.
ahead, Denise. I see you there.
Can you answer that last question that Jeff put into the chat?
Jeff put a math question in here.
No, not a math question. A question about the not getting the waiver signed. He said something about it's on the PA. So why do we need to get it signed?
Oh, but it's on the PA that we aren't asking for the home warranty. Why do I still need to sign a waiver? I don't know that I'm going to blame it on the home warranty company itself. Will they accept it that we
Darwin,
put
I
it
can answer
on
that
there
for
that
you.
it's not actually being offered? Go ahead, Renee.
We had the home warranty company in here, and if you do not have that waiver uploaded into the system, they will not cover your E&O if that needs to come into effect.
There you go. So there's a straightforward from the E&O representative.
That is a
And then I
company
got, thank
mandated
you for
form.
jumping in, Renee, because that also gives me the time to think about what the purchase agreement actually says. It's not that they're rejecting, it's saying that it's not, it is either to be offered or not to be. It's to be provided by or not to be provided by. So it's not really the offer to our client. So that would be probably the reason behind what Renee just gave us. So it's on the home warranty company. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for catching that. I missed it. Guys, you got anything else? Well, let me finish this way that no hot topic next week. It is August and Darwin's getting out of here for his whole family vacation that he does every day. So I call myself high class trailer trash. So we've got a 31-foot travel trailer and we're going to get out of town and go hang out with our family for a week. So I take a week off for it. You guys are the no hot topic for next week. So 2 weeks, we'll be back together. I don't have anything for it, but we'll find out what the hot subject matter is. And if you guys got anything, let me know what it is. And we'll see if we can build that out here, if that's a great topic for us to be able to hit on a hot topic Tuesday. In the meantime, we all know what to do. Time to go talk to people. See you guys.